Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. Welcome to a big news episode of CSGO News. Hope you guys all enjoy. As always, let's get right into it. And first off today in huge CSGO News, we do have the announcement of the very first ever Esports Hall of Fame candidate. If you guys remember a long time ago in CSGO News, we announced the formation of the Esports Hall of Fame with a lot of casters, analysts, and team owners on that board there choosing the first candidate. And they also announced their first, nomination into the Esports Hall of Fame would indeed be a CSGO player. Now this will be announced at the induction ceremony to the ESL 1 Cologne Major in about a couple weeks. Coming soon in July, this person will be announced on stage, and that person will be none other than the legendary NIP player known as Heaton. If you guys have not heard about Heaton, a legendary player, played most of his time with NIP and also SK Gaming, and with both those teams actually won a multiple and combination of CPL winter and summer events. These CPL events were basically what today's majors are. Now they only were $30,000 to $50,000 prize pools for winning it, but back in the day that was a lot more money. That was all the money that was in the esports and the CSGO scene. So CPL events back in the day are today's majors. He won a combination of those with both SK and NIP, and it was, I think it was about September of 2007 where Heaton actually passed up, after retiring from NIP, he passed up the coaching role to pursue other interests. And then it was just a couple of years ago, I believe it was in 2014, where Heaton actually returned to NIP to help manage the team and also has other businesses on the side and pursues other interests as well besides just managing NIP. But it's really cool to see a player be able to, come back to his old team and actually still have ties with the management there. So really cool for Heaton, and it will be none other than Get Right, from captain to captain. Heaton was also a former NIP captain. Get Right, obviously the current captain, and he will be actually introducing him on the stage and giving him the award and nominating him into the actual Esports Hall of Fame. So really cool there. And for all of you guys who are thinking, oh, why isn't Kenny S, Neo, Taz, Forrest, Get Right himself, Olaf, why aren't these players the players who actually won? Why is it this, this guy who I don't really know about, because a lot of us are a younger audience? Well, first off, one of the main rules and one of the main obligations to actually have a chance at this, you had to be retired for at least a year. This is a good choice. A lot of people suggested other 1.6 players, but a very solid choice for the very first announcement to the Esports Hall of Fame. And just right here, guys, is today's huge story. This may just be the end of CSGO Gambling, and I say this in a bad way. This might sound hypocritical. Please listen to the whole story, guys. So first off, if you guys have not heard the past few days, sites including CSGO Wild, possibly CSGO Lounge, or CSGO Diamonds have began to not necessarily ban, but restrict people from certain parts of the US in participating in gambling and betting on their websites. And why this is a huge thing is because this may be in part due to the lawsuit that was filed just last week. I'll show screenshots on the screen, and quote for quote, this was filed by an individual guy against Valve and against these websites, saying he was basically blaming and accusing of Valve for allowing, supporting, and knowing of illegal gambling going on in the community. Now, obviously, a very valid point. A lot of the, probably a majority of the gambling community out there is under 18. A lot of us are way younger than that. I guess I'm not. I'm way older. But we all know, and we all have a sense that the majority of the gambling population is way younger than 18, or at least the legal age limit for most of these websites. Now, there are a few websites out there that have that age restriction that don't let you actually enter the website unless you agree you're 18. There's a lot of ways around that, but those websites are probably safe. I myself have not had this trouble. We've just had people on Reddit and also in the news, HLTV, reporting that apparently mainly with CSGO Wild, they're slowly banning and not letting people onto their website because of these reasons. So a big issue here, and I will touch on this, the first actual game I made YouTube videos about was Runescape. Now, if you guys are a big fan of that, there used to be millions of players on this MMO. Millions and millions of little kids playing RuneScape, and they were earning these things called GP. You could sell your items in-game for gold, otherwise known as GP, and the big YouTubers and the big shots with a lot of gold were going onto these websites and selling that gold to little kids like me who actually, bought it. And they would sell that gold for straight up cash. You could sell items, you could sell your gold. It was real world trading to the max, and millions of players were thriving on it and loving it. The player base in the first time actually grew. It grew, drastically. There were millions of players on it one time until Jagex caught wind of this. They wanted to stop it, and the first thing they did was release and actually deny free trade. You can no longer free trade openly amounts of money. Therefore, you had these guys who were trying to pack a bunch of gold onto their accounts. They could no longer transfer between accounts, and they couldn't, transfer to their clients as well because, whatever you put up, if you were going to give them a certain amount of gold, your client, in order to accept that trade, had to put up the same amount. So it really negated and it made no sense. So that was their first attempt at stopping real world trading, and again, the player base drastically shot down. A lot of people started leaving the game because they couldn't make money off of it, and they couldn't play the game in an easier fashion. They couldn't, attain that gold for a lot easier instead of spending hours playing the game, and they couldn't buy the gold, so they didn't want to spend the hours playing the game, so they just quit. And then second off, a few years later, they then went on and actually took away the only source of in-game gambling from the game as well. So again, people lost a source of risk reward. You know, they took away the dice bag. This was instituted a long time ago. They took it away so people could no longer gamble in game, and this again drastically shot down the player count because people saw this as a chance. Oh my gosh, I can no longer, you know, have that risk of betting my money and making a lot more money than I could spending hours at a computer screen. And instead of just playing those hours on the game trying to earn the money legit, they couldn't gamble, so they quit. And this is why I'm saying that CSGO needs gambling, because it's a source of people's income. Now, whether a lot of us, you know, lose that money, you know, because a lot of us pay money for skins, the skins eventually drop in price, or we gamble them all away and we end up losing anyway, it's still having that option open to all of us to gamble and possibly make more than we actually spend. That keeps players playing the game and wanting to earn drops, wanting to open cases. Otherwise, what's the point of having these skins? If there's only a monetary value to them on the Steam community that you can't go and gamble them out, you're going to lose a player base, and this is what I'm worried about. There was a small decline in Steam prices today on all my CSGO Lounge skins. I dropped about 4 to 5% on every single one, and this is what I'm worried about. I don't want to call it the stock market crash that it happened last year around January, but it could be even worse than that. I don't want to frighten anyone. I've sold off a few skins, but there is definitely a drastic change coming sometime soon to CSGO. I just don't know what it's going to be, so that's my point. I do believe that CSGO needs gambling. Okay, let's change the subject. Back to the news, guys. We have a lot of news today, and not really exciting news. The Series 2 collection pins were actually released. My favorite one being the Bloodhound and the Phoenix. Here's a quick screenshot of all those Series 2 pins. Again, I'm not a huge fan of buying pins. They're kind of pointless, but yes, those were released. So, whoop-de-doo. And for anyone needing Eleague Group F updates for this week, there were no really big surprises in day one, as both Envious and Virtus.pro, as predicted, actually ended the day on top of the group, each securing 3 wins, and they split their one-on-one series to each other, having their own loss to each other. They split their best of 2 series there. Envious also continued this on to day 2, which is today, as they did 2-0 Complexity. So congrats to Envious, they're currently on top of the group, as Virtus.pro today also split their series with Gambit. So we do have Envious on top right now. We do have 2 games going on as we speak, versus Gambit Gaming and Complexity. This is actually a big series because this determines the seeding for the semifinals, because, you know, the loser will actually have to play Envious, the team that's, you know, somewhat better than Virtus.pro, but I do not see either of these teams, Gambit or Complexity, winning a best of 3 series versus Virtus.pro or Envious. So I think either way this series goes, they're going to have a hard time going on. And finally, ending today's CSGO news, we have more bad news for the XSK team. As you guys know, they lost their organization just last week. Then they lost Acillion the week after that. After losing Acillion soon after the team, they asked longtime subs Glaive and Valley to rejoin the squad, and just as they were finally securing their 5-man roster, they now have lost their best rifler, Magic Boy. He decided to leave. He will be looking for a new team. So a little recap here for the XSK squad. They lost their organization. They lost one of their riflers, Pimp, to Liquid. The next week, they lost Acillion, who's currently not on the roster. No one really sure where Acillion's at right now, if he's even playing. And now Magic Boy, one of their better riflers, even better than Pimp, is now looking for a new team. So the XSK squad really struggling here, guys. Just a little, you know, a little shout out if you guys are looking to bet on XSK. Maybe question that bet a little bit, because now they're on 2 subs and 2 part-time players, and they're currently looking for a 5th player as well. Very curious to see who they decide to pick up. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of CSGO News. I really wanted to make a bigger story about that whole CSGO gambling scene, the fact that it might affect the community. I know a lot of you guys are thinking, Jake, do you support it or do you not? I bring it up a lot in all my videos, and the fact is, I don't know where I stand. I know that CSGO, in order to thrive, in order for me to get viewers, and obviously you guys find my channel, we need gambling because it brings a lot more players into the community. But at the same time, those players, a majority of them, are losing money during gambling, losing money doing it. So I'm not sure where I stand on this whole issue. I want you guys to know. Let me know down in the comment section below. What do you guys think? What's the future of CSGO gambling? Do you guys think CSGO needs it? Because I personally think that the game thrives with it. So as always, live, love, laugh a lot. Remember, I like you. I'll see you guys all tomorrow with a CSGO stream and a CSGO news episode. I will not be streaming tonight, but I will be streaming the rest of the week. Hope you guys all enjoy. And as always, you guys know what's coming. Go!